Hi, my name is Hakimi, and now I will explain the meaning of autocracy. So, what is autocracy? Autocracy is one of the oldest forms of government in human history, and it has existed since ancient civilizations, when kings and emperors ruled over great countries. It is a system of government where one person holds absolute control and decision-making power in all matters. That person could be a king, a dictator, or a supreme leader that will make decisions without taking others into accountability, like do not including the public or legislative body's opinion. Besides, autocracies can be categorized into absolute monarchy, which power is inherited through family lines, and there are dictatorships where leader takes control through forces or manipulation. However, they all pose the same threat as the power is concentrated in one person's hand, and it means no compromise in power balance. Unlike in a democracy system, the people in autocracy countries cannot give objection in determining the state's rules or how it will be enforced. This is because the autocratic ruler is not responsible to explain their action or decision to anyone, and there are no other parts of the government that can question the ruler, including the courts, media, and parliaments. As a result, it can become a threat because will be no room for freedom of speech. People have no choice but to follow the autocrat's command without no rights to raise a protest, and autocracy might lead the ruler to be greedy and abuse the power they have, which can lead to corruption and downfall of a state. Moreover, autocracies often emerge in time of crisis because people may support a single strong leader to restore order and stability. Although autocracies have its disadvantages, it also has certain advantages in some situations for governance. For example, autocrats do not need to consult with others like parliaments in planning, and this can allow them to make a fast decision during crises like pandemics or wars. Next, government policies and program can be implemented more efficiently since orders come directly from the top by a single individual without passing many levels of approval, which can slow down the work. Therefore, autocracy can have its merits and demerits by how it will be used to lead a state, and depends on what kind of ruler have the absolute power. For that reason, our group will discuss historical and present-day autocrat regimes to determine whether some have successfully maintained stability while protecting basic rights.
Now, for my part of presentation, I'm going to talk about bad autocracy that violates basic rights. First of all, what is bad autocracy? Bad autocracy is when the government control goes beyond the political power and extend into a several violation of basic human rights or general rights. This often use fear, violence, and mass surveillance to grip the silence in any form of operation that made by the citizen. It's basically like the government overuse the coercive power over its own citizen. Now, we are going to discuss or take a look at the example of nations that have or practice bad autocracy. The first example is North Korea, ruled by Kim Jong-un. It's one of the most closed and repressive government in the world. The state controls all media, bans free speeches, and pushes anyone who speaks against its leadership. Citizens can be sent to forced labor camp without trial. Basic rights such as freedom of movement, access to information, and legal protection are almost non-existent. This type of system is still happening in North Korea right now. This proves that bad autocracy is still happening in this modern era. The next example is Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler leadership, which lasted from 1933 to 1945. This is one of the clearest historical examples of how an authoritarian government can lead to extreme violation of basic and human rights. When Hitler became chancellor, he quickly turned Germany into one-party state by banning all political opposition and taking full control of the government, the media, and even school. His leadership was based on fear, violence, and strict control over every part of people's life. The government used propaganda to spread Nazi belief, and secret police like the Gestapo to arrest and punish everyone who disagreed. One of the worst crimes committed by this regime was the Holocaust, where over 6 million Jews were killed in the concentration and extermination camps. Many others, including Roma people, people who have disability, and political prisoners, were also targeted and murdered. This tragic event shows how dangerous autocratic power can be when there are no checks and no basic rights to protect the people. For the last example of bad autocracy is Myanmar. Myanmar has been under strict military control since early 2021, when the army carried out the coup and removed the democratically elected government from power. The country leaders Aung San Suu Kyi, along with many other elected officials, was arrested and placed in detention without any fair trial. This sudden takeover of power led to large peaceful protests all across the country, with people demanding the return of democracy and the release of their leaders. However, instead listening to the people's voice, the military responded with violence. Soldiers used guns, tear gas, and beating to break up the protests, and thousands of civilians were either killed, seriously injured, or thrown into a prison. Many people are still injured today simply for speaking out or joining a protest. At the same time, ethnic minority groups in Myanmar, especially the Rohingya or the Muslim community, have suffered greatly under military rule. They have faced years of discrimination, attack on their village, and forced removed from their homes. In some cases, entire community were burned, and many families had to flee their country to escape the violence. The United Nations and human rights groups have called this action crimes against humanity, and this case of Rohingya even possible genocide. This situation in Myanmar shows how autocratic rules can lead to loss of basic rights like safety, freedom of speech, and the right to vote. This also creating a fear and suffering among the people that live in that nation. And now, let's move on to the next slide.
While autocracy is often associated with authoritarian control and limited freedoms, some autocratic regimes have managed to achieve long-term political stability. By centralizing power, these governments can avoid political gridlock, respond quickly to crises, and ensure consistent leadership, and automatically contribute to national order and economic progress. Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew is a key example of a stable autocracy. Although political opposition was limited, the government maintained strict rule of law, reduced corruption, and provide high-quality public service. This stability created a safe, efficient environment for economic growth and public trust in governments. China's one-party system has allowed for strong central control, enabling long-term economic planning and massive poverty reduction. Despite limited political freedom, China's stable leadership has facilitated infrastructure development, rapid industrialization, and steady improvement in public service. Last one is Russia. Since Vladimir Putin's rise to power, Russia has experienced relative political stability after the chaotic post-Soviet years. By consolidating authority, the government was able to strengthen state institutions, stabilize the economy through energy exports, and promote national identity, even as it restricted political dissent.
Next, we will go to the analysis and discussion. As we know, autocracy is a very important system in the government's administration. One of the main reasons why autocracy is important in a government's leadership is autocracy will maintain the bureaucratic efficiency. Autocracy will develop strong bureaucracies to maintain stability and ensure the leadership system functions smoothly. A well-organized public service can help deliver services effectively to the public, such as managing schools and dividing public aid. Next, The decision-making process will be faster for the government's administration. This is because in the autocracy system, the decision will be made by the person in charge. This is because in the autocracy system, the decision will be made by the person in charge. There is no need for voting or debate process to determine the desired result. Thus, the policy implementation process will be faster. This will ease the burden of the governments, especially during crisis or emergency situation. However, autocracy may also bring disadvantages to the leadership of a government. This is because in the autocracy system, the person in charge has the probability to lack in accountability. This will bring too many problems, such as corruption and abuse of power. Thus, the welfare and the rights of the citizens will be at risk, because the leaders may abuse their power. If this autocracy system changes in a short amount of time, it may also bring consequences to the country's administration and government. One of the effects is sudden power changes. Since all the power is belong to a single leader, the transition of the leadership roles may create a leadership vacuum. Leadership vacuums means lack of centralized of power or political authority. This will further create instability and chaos, especially if there is no clear plan or solution to the issues happening.
So, we have come to conclusion part. Ultimately, we believe that many autocratic regimes have managed to protect order and leading in countries' development, but there are still some of them that struggle to respect basic rights and abuse it. This proves that stability is crucial to protect justice and secure fairness, no matter who holds the power in hands. Therefore, the effectiveness of autocracy cannot be judged by its ability to maintain order alone, but also by its user willingness to keep the rights of its citizens safe.